So by even using the neutral safety switch, we can still use our bump start for a remote button, like if we wanted to turn the engine over and set valve latch or something like that. Alright guys, previously y'all remember that we went over the reverse or backup lights and showed you how to use the micro switch furnished with our B&M Quicksilver shifter. Well, today we're going to address the micro switch right below it, which is going to be our neutral safety switch. And as you can see in the park position, the arm is on a raised area that actually closes the contactor. Then there's an opening and another raised area for neutral, which in turn will also close the contact. And then when you go through all the drive gears, it's going to drop down and open it up again. So I'm going to kind of run through this and show you how I'm going to hook it up, and we're going to bench test this and we'll go from there. So again, the micro switch needs to raise up to complete the contact. Alright guys, so generally I always use one of the solenoid slash relays that you put on the firewall, kind of like a Ford has. This one is a coiled setup, and it actually has self-grounding, so we're going to run a ground through a bolt on the back, and I'm going to use an LED light as my source, which would be the starter. So I'm going to have a black wire, which is going to be supply power from the battery, and a red wire, which will be a signal wire or a trigger wire to actually make the relay slash solenoid latch and allow the power to go through to the light, which is supposed to be our starter. So I'm going to use this little push button switch to simulate my key, start switch, whatever you want to say. So basically whatever you're dealing with, if it's a key and you're turning it on, a momentary toggle switch, or a push button, this is all going to pretty much be the same. So what we're going to do is I'm going to go ahead and put a hot supply wire to the switch, and it's going to go to the 12-volt battery. And the other side of the switch is going to go to the trigger wire that goes to the solenoid slash contactor slash relay, whichever one you want to call it. And then the black wire is going to simulate our battery cable and go to the battery. So this is the way it would basically be set up in a simple way to actually get power to your starter. So with everything hooked up, when I push this red button, this little red LED should start to flash, as so. So that means the circuit works and everything's functioning properly. So it's allowing the current to go through the relay slash contactor slash solenoid and go and start the car. Now remember, you got a power supply, a signal, and an output. So basically an input, power supply, output to the function, whether it be the LED, starter, or whatever. And then the red wire is your trigger wire for your coil or signal wire. Now, what we're going to do with the neutral safety switch is we're going to actually tap into the wire that's going to feed a trigger or a signal, to where if the shifter is in neutral or park, it will allow it to go through, and if it's not, it won't. So I'm going to use this wiring right here, and you've got a common terminal and we have a normally open terminal. So at rest, it does not have a connection to allow current to go through, but when you close the contact, it does. So I'm going to plug both these wires on, and I got one marked with the blue and one in pink, and I did the same thing to the other side. So then what I'm going to do is, on the blue wire, we're going to take the red wire from our button that was actually going to the trigger or solenoid signal wire, and we're going to plug it in to the blue wire on the micro switch. Then the other one is where we're going to actually land the signal wire that's going to the solenoid slash relay. And in turn, as I mentioned, when we're in park or neutral, we should be able to light up the red light, and when we're not, we shouldn't. Now guys, I do understand the blue and pink or red, whichever color terminal it is based on the gauge of wire. I used them as a color code here for reference to help y'all understand that there are two separate wires, but they're both gray. So here we go. I'm going to push the button, and with the shifter in park, voila, we have a red flashing light, which means our circuit is working. So now I'm going to go ahead and reposition the shifter, and I'm going to move it over here so you can see the red light while I push the button and everything. So there we are in neutral, or I'm sorry, in park. Now we're going to go back into the reverse section, and right now I push the button and we should not have anything, which we do not. So now I'll click back into neutral, and we should have a little flashing red light. and there it is. So everything's cool, and even if we went into overdrive, drive, second, or first, just for you people that want to see it and might ask, first gear, nothing. Second gear, nothing. Third gear, nothing. Overdrive, nothing. So wow, let's go back into neutral and push the button, and voila, we have current and we work. So me being the overachiever I am, there's something I'm going to do, and by utilizing these wires that go to the micro switch, I'm going to show you the way I will hook my personal setup up. So bear with me while I unplug all this stuff. When it comes to myself, I'm a bit of an overachiever. Some people say I do things overkill. So as I mentioned, we have a common and a normally open contact, and we were sending our power for our signal wire through it. Well, as I look at it, I would rather utilize a ground as a trigger, you know, as far as for my neutral safety switch. That way, if there's ever an issue, I can just bypass it. So what I'm going to do is that blue that we used to use on the signal wire, which was a hot, I'm going to ground. And the other half of that ground, I'm going to hook up on the coil wire of a relay here in a minute. But so what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to show you how I would actually insert a relay into this circuit. So if y'all remember, we're going to have this red wire, which is going to be our actual signal wire from our push button, which now we're going to use my fuse panel that has a switch panel, and this switch on it's what we're going to use. So I tied it into a jumper, and if you remember the relays video we did, I'm going to put my supply on 30, and then I'm going to jump it over to either 85 or 86, whichever side of the coil I feel like grabbing, because it will work either way on this particular relay. So my trigger wire is going to 30, and then I'm going to jump when the trigger wire is activated with the hot to also energize the coil at the same time. On the other side, I'm going to utilize the ground that's going through the micro switch on the shifter for the neutral safety switch. So I'm basically going to add another safety mechanism to my circuit, to where if the neutral safety switch ever went out, I could unplug my signal wire from 87 and tap over to 87A and bypass the switch and be rolling again until I got somewhere where I had the adequate wiring or tools or parts to fix my ride. So I'm going to go ahead and hook the battery power up, and this is going to be the solenoid power wire. Tap back into it to where the relay does have a hot source, and the shifter is in neutral, and I'm going to grab this switch panel real quick. And when I hit this start button, if all's well and everything's working properly, we should have a little red flashing light. And we do. So again, guys, it is making it a little more elaborate, but for me, I like it. So I'll go ahead and put this shifter in neutral real quick, and again, we should have a red flashing light. Sorry, my hand's in the way, so there it is. And as you can see, then I'll put it back into reverse. And bear with me, the shifter's kind of a pain not being bolted down. Push the button, and I should have nothing, which I don't. Now, another perk to doing it this way is on my particular setup, I have a bump start switch that's activated by a ground on my panel, to where I can actually ground it. It'll bypass everything else and go straight into my start trigger wire. So even if I hit it, the neutral safety switch still works as it should. So if I'm in park or neutral, it'll work, but if I'm in reversed, first, second, third, drive, overdrive, it will not, as shown here. So it's just one of them things that, you know, it's an added feature that I like, and it's just a little overkill for some, but hey, it works. So until next time, we'll catch you later.